Committee will be in order, and thank you very much for assembling this evening on a expedited basis. I want to let the committee know that we're going to consider a rule that will allow this House the flexibility necessary to ensure we can quickly consider any legislation that the United States Senate may send to us. We believe that should be done on or about noon or slightly after tomorrow. Additionally, this rule will provide the authority to consider legislation designed to prevent our nation from defaulting on our obligations by raising the debt ceiling, and further, this includes language to continue our work to move ahead on the Farm Bill. I want to thank my colleagues on both sides for joining us today, and I recognize that my ranking member, the gentlewoman from New York, may have an opening statement, but I first want to acknowledge Father Conroy, who is here. We need some divine intervention. I know there's a lot of discussion about adult supervision, but if we can invoke some opportunity for the House chaplain to give divine intervention, maybe we can pull this off. But Father, thank you very much for joining us again. I know that you were here a lot for the Honorable David Dreyer, probably because he needed a lot of help, but I think you sensed that your presence would be worthy today, and thank you very much. I'd like to yield, if I can, to the distinguished young gentlewoman from New York for any opening statement she may have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Father Conroy, we have certainly put a burden on you. I believe it would require constant supplication. I hope you're up to that. We're going to be working night and day. So, no, but we know why we're here, and there's not any reason to do a lot of talk. But it really has been a very hairy time, and I know that now the ping-ponging is going to start with a vengeance on these bills. I really want more than I can tell you to try to reach some decision on what we're doing here, because the government of the United States deserves better from its representatives in Congress than all this dilly-dallying and back and forthing. We really have to get together to try to save this economy. Just the threat of shutdown that goes on perpetually and talk about it as though it's nothing has caused great damage already to the economy. So I'm hoping that with the passage of this rule tonight, that we can at least get by two most important things on the economy that we're going to be doing, and that we won't see any more grandstanding or showboating, and that we will really get down to work and work together to try to achieve some resolution here that can give people some peace of mind. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Slaughter, I want to thank you that your, I think words of assurance are very important, not just to the members of this committee and your caucus, but also I think the American people that recognize that what we're trying to do is work together on an effort that's got to be done to meet the test of making sure that we keep this government functioning properly. It is, as has been a part of the discussion that I've said before, the Republican leadership intends to bring forth the opportunity to make sure we keep this government working and work with our colleagues in the Senate and eventually with the President. With that said, we're here to make progress.
This is not any way that we could say the world's oldest democracy. Well, I guess the Greeks are old on but the democracy is supposed to be the beacon for the world to run this government.
Yes, ma'am.
This is childish.
Well, we intend to try and put forward a professional product, and with that said, I know the gentlewoman from North Carolina has a motion. I would defer to the gentlewoman. She's recognized at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee grant a rule that waives the requirement of Clause 6A of Rule 13, requiring a two-thirds vote to consider a rule on the same date as reported from the Rules Committee. The rule applies the waiver to any resolution reported through the legislative day of September 30, 2013, relating to any of the following: 1, a measure making continuing appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2014. 2, a measure relating to the public debt limit. Section 2 of the rule provides that the House concurs in the Senate amendment to H.R. 2642 with an amendment consisting of the text of H.R. 2642 as passed by the House, modified by the insertion of a new Title IV, consisting of the text of H.R. 3102 as passed by the House with designations, short titles, and cross-references conformed accordingly.
You've now heard the motion from the gentlewoman from North Carolina. Is there discussion or amendment to that?
There is one thing I'd like
Gentleman's
to know, Mr.
recognized.
Chairman. As I understand it, the debt limit bill is not ready. And I wanted to know when this martial law bill rule will expire.
Thank you very much. I believe that we're good till Monday.
Okay. All right,
Good
thank you.
till Monday would be the answer.
Around midnight.
On that business day.
Okay.
That business day.
The bell tolls for us, Mr. Chair.
In fact, the onus is on us to be able to produce these things. And thank you very much. Further discussion, or gentleman from Massachusetts recognized.
Mr. Chairman, this is just more of a request. First, I want to associate myself with the remarks of our ranking member. I think this whole process has been very upsetting and to a lot of people watching things unfold here. We're getting calls. People can't understand why we can't function. And they don't quite understand what's going on in the Senate with Senator Cruz and with all this harsh rhetoric going and the threats that are going back and forth. But putting that aside, the request I have is that this rule would also allow you to bring up a measure on the debt limit under this martial law rule anytime between now and Monday. And press reports have indicated that that you guys are talking about not just the clean debt limit bill, but I've heard the Keystone Pipeline, that tax reform, that offshore drilling, that means testing for Medicare, and a whole bunch of other stuff may be in it. That sounds like an awfully long bill. And I would hope that you would encourage your leadership to at least give us the opportunity to have some time to look at it, because there are going to be a lot of things in it, and so under this rule you could just bring it up the same day. But I hope we would have some time to be able to look at it and see what truly is in there. And I know you can't give us an answer right now, but I hope you'll pass that on to the Speaker and the Majority Leader, that a bill with all these things in it that have nothing to do with the debt limit, all be combined as one, we ought to have some time to read it.
I thank the gentleman for his comments. As a matter of fact, they're very consistent with what your ranking member and I have spoken about for some time, and I know your staff director, Miles, has done that with Mr. Halpern here on the Republican side, the staff director. Please know that, in fact, it is my hope and desire, and I'd like to respond to you accordingly, that we would like to give you time. It is my hope also to, and perhaps preempting what I'd say tomorrow if not enough time is given, I think none of these are new issues or ideas. But I do not intend I do intend to give you time. I don't intend to drag it out. But we do intend to make sure that you understand, because, in fact, the American people need to understand, our members need to understand, and people need to give content back to us. And I think it's very important, always, in a sense of working with you. Mrs. Slaughter and I agreed that we would do that. And so as quickly as I have that ready, I will call Mrs. Slaughter, and we will post those, and we will make sure it's done accordingly.
In conjunction with that, we will probably be responsible from the Rules Committee to tell our colleagues what's in there as well, and pretty early. We have to have time. I don't think anything as important as that. At least the bill that we hear is coming, that Mr. McGovern is elucidated us all on here, is far too intense for us. Although I think you know pretty much what our answer will be.
Yes, ma'am.
We believe the President is right. You don't negotiate on whether you're going to pay your bills.
Yeah. In fact, let me say this. I believe your request would be mine if I were sitting in your chair. And I think fairness is fair. Yeah. And so it would be my hope that tomorrow, as we play this out, that you will once again accept my call, as you always do so graciously, that I will have a chance to give you the heads up on what's happening, and that, in fact, you'll be able to respond back within some period of time.
If Democrat votes are needed here,
Well, I still want to go to
It would
fairness.
be important for us to know.
Still want to go to fairness. So I intend to do that, and I will look Mr. McGovern right at the eye when I say that, and hope that I can give every indication to live up to that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Are there any comments from the Republican side? Do I hear any further discussion or amendment to that? All right, the vote's now on the motion from the gentlewoman, the vice chairman of the committee, Mrs. Fox. Those in favor of Mrs. Fox's motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. We'd like a roll call. The ayes have it. Roll call called.
Ms. Fox.
Aye.
Ms. Fox, aye. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, aye. Mr. Woodall. Aye. Mr. Woodall, aye. Mr. Nugent. Aye. Mr. Nugent, aye. Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster, aye. Ms. Ross-Leitman. Aye. Ms. Ross-Leitman, aye. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess, aye. Ms. Slaughter.
I know.
Ms. Slaughter, no. Mr. McGovern.
No.
Mr. McGovern, no. Mr. Hastings. Mr. Polis. No. Mr. Polis, no. Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
Clerk will report.
9 yeas, 3 nays.
The motion is agreed to. Motion is agreed to. I anticipate it will be. I am, once again, we've given ourselves time, but I will be managing that, and would anticipate it to be tomorrow, and assume that you'll have somebody for your team. Mr. McGovern will be there. He and I have done very well. We did one last week and had entirely too much fun. And would, well, I didn't bring that up. I was a good winner, I hope. Well, you know, there's a bunch of ways to look at it. Yeah, I would say publicly what I'd stated a few minutes ago, and that is a healthy respect for the staff of both sides of this committee, Republicans and Democrats, who are faithfully not only serving in some difficult times, but recognize that we're headed into some times that may require some weekend thought process, some overtime. And I want to thank each of the members for being here today, their conscientious effort, and seeing nothing further, this now ends the committee hearing.
Thank you.